Peace, peace. Today's topic is a second in a series on prescriptions for spiritual wellness. And we are now into the second chapter of the Yoga Sutras. And those of you who are attending this series, it's always good to have your own copy of the Yoga Sutras with you so you can follow along and in that way deepen your study. In the first chapter of the Yoga Sutras, Patanjali gave an assessment of what samadhi is and how it can be reached. In Yoga Sutras 1 through 19, he gives the cream of the Yoga Sutras. For example, in Sutras 1 through 4, he summarizes yoga. In Sutras 5 through 11, he reveals the nature of our obstruction to yoga. In Sutras 12 through 16, how to control the mind. Sutra 17 to 19, the stages of concentration. Then in Sutras 20 to 51, the attitudes we must have to prepare and develop the mind. Sutras 20 to 22, he discusses faith and its importance. Sutras 23 to 29, how to develop devotion. And in Sutra 130, the obstacles. Sutras 31 through 40, their antidotes. And in Sutras 41 to 48, the levels of concentration and samadhi. What are those levels? Savitarka is the first. And it comes with meditation on a gross form, such as the sound of the jute mill whistle that Ramakrishna told Vivekananda to meditate upon when it was obstructing his meditation. What happens? Time, space, and the object remain. Then comes Nirvitarka, a stage higher. We deepen our meditation on the gross form. Time, space become diminished, and the meditator sees the object as it is. The next is vichara, meditation on a subtle object. For example, the mental image of one's chosen ideal in the heart. And in that stage, the next stage, nirvichara, the meditation on the subtle object deepens. What happens? We lose a sense of time and space, and we no longer feel, I am seeing. Then comes ananda, blissful samadhi. The object of meditation is the interior organ. It's very subtle. The buddhi, the higher mind, bereft of all thought. That part of the mind that watches the mind then becomes the object of meditation. And finally, we reach what is called asmita. Meditation of the buddhi deepens, only the sattva state of the ego remains, and the knower is bereft of all body consciousness. In the second chapter of the Yoga Sutras, which is called the Sadhanpada, aspirants next learn the yoga practices necessary to attain samadhi. So it's very practically oriented. Patanjali starts by giving us the pillar of spiritual life, Kriya Yoga. Kriya Yoga, which is sadhana plus study plus devotion to the chosen ideal. So essentially, we're all practicing this Kriya Yoga. This Kriya Yoga leads to concentration of mind and attenuates those obstacles lurking within the mind. From this chapter, we also learn in depth what those obstacles are. What are they? Ignorance, egoism, a sense of I, attachment, aversion, and the desire to cling to life, and how they manifest and operate within us in order to hinder our spiritual vision. With that knowledge, we're able to face down these obstacles and reduce them to a vestigial form and gradually attenuate them. So this is done by sadhana. This is what we're all doing. Rigorous introspection, meditation, vichara, or discernment, the understanding of who I am, the witness consciousness, and learning to transform our action, karma, into karma yoga, selfless action, which leaves no trace of future negative samskaras, latent tendencies to drag us from our goal. Now we come to Sutra 214. Tlada paritapa phala punya punye hetutvat. The actions bear fruit as pleasure or pain caused by virtue or vice. So what is sukha? Happiness. But what is pleasure at one time can become pain later. It's very important to understand this point. Sri Ramakrishna tells us, camel browses on briars. It will continue to eat thorns though its mouth bleeds. The worldly man loses his children and still clamors for more. This is a very gross example, but in a subtle sense, it's also true. We can't give up. It's too hard for us. Sometimes in life, everything seems to be going right, but we're simply enjoying the results of our past punya karmas. At other times, nothing is going right. Why? Because our apunya karma is giving us its results. And when we begin to realize this and think in these terms, we begin to objectify ourselves and we begin to get a hold over where we are and where we want to be. So these punya and apunya karmas come in waves for no reason. We may be going along feeling blissfully happy, and then all of a sudden we go through a mood that's coming from the apunya karmas. Sutra 215. Parinama tapa samskara dukher gunavriti virodchat dukkha eva sarvam vivekinaha. To those of spiritual discrimination, regard all these experiences as painful. So why? The element of incessant human desire, fear, and the gunas themselves are what govern this truth. It is said, for even the enjoyment of present pleasure is painful, since we already fear its loss. It's true, we want to hold on. The past pleasure is painful because renewed cravings arise from the impression it has left upon the mind. So how can any happiness be lasting if it depends upon our moods, the gunas of the mind? For these gunas are constantly changing as one or another of the ever-warring gunas seizes control of the minds. And there again, if we understand that it is the gunas playing with us, we begin to objectify these moods from who we are. So it's all very scientific and logical. Bhartrihari, in his poem, his famous poem, the Vairagya Shatakam, translated by Swami Vivekananda, describes the nature of our human condition from a poetical viewpoint, which gives us a more detached philosophical outlook on our human condition. He writes, "For this life, which is like a drop of water on a lotus leaf, we have not enjoyed, but enjoyments have enjoyed us. We did not penance, but penances burnt us up. Time did not fly, yet we are gone. We become decrepit with age, but not so desire. Infirmity assails us, the skin wrinkles, the hair whitens, the body becomes crooked, old age comes on, desire alone grows younger every day. This is a truth. He goes on. Hope is the name of this river whose water is desire, and thirst the waves thereof. Passion is the crocodile living in that water. Vain resolves are the birds that reside in the tree of virtue on the shores and kill it. But there are the whirlpools of delusion and despondence, the high banks. The great yogis are blissful because they, with their pure minds, never crossed this river. Patanjali tells us, Dukkha eva sarvam vivekinaha. Don't be carried away by the flow of sorrow. It's an unending wave. In every situation, in every enjoyment, there is embedded an element of pain. Bhartrihari sums it up for us in this memorable passage. In enjoyment is the fear of disease. In high birth, the fear of losing caste. In wealth, the fear of tyrants. In honor, the fear of losing it. In strength, the fear of enemies. In beauty, the fear of the other sex. In knowledge, the fear of defeat. In virtue, the fear of the fear of scandal. In the body, the fear of death. In this life, all is fraught with fear. Renunciation alone is fearless. In other words, we need to strive to look at what we're experiencing as objectively as possible. Expect nothing. Be attached to nothing, and we will fear nothing. How can we develop that capacity to analyze every situation in life, we ask? As a parent, we're only caretakers of our children. Our children belong to God. It's a great relief when we can turn our children over to God. Sri Ramakrishna gives this wonderful advice, so simple, so profound. Live as a maidservant in your landlord's house, the landlord being your chosen ideal. Sri Ramakrishna goes on, as a maid in a rich family brings up the child of her master, loving the baby as if it were her own, yet knowing well that she has no claim upon it, so also should you think that you are but trustees and guardians of your children, whose real father is the Lord himself. What happens? Then we'll find there is no element of sadness in our life with the thought of losing anything. Now, this is not negativity, it's a fact. Everything is transitory and impermanent. So there's always an element of loss, grief, and denial in all that we do, unless we assert our power of discrimination and discernment. That gives us strength. Next, we'll concentrate our attention on the positive aspects of this discernment. Having identified how we create samskaras, how they become lodged within us, and how they flare up, and we become the victim of them. These subsequent slokas will tell us how to then arise to our own glory of the divine awareness within. Sutra 16. Heyam dukkam anagatam. The pain that is yet to come may be avoided. We can make use of the present to consciously build up immunity to our self-forgetfulness, prevent the suffering, and remain poised in our true nature. Prevention is the natural cure. Whatever is past has passed. For the present, we can re-educate ourselves to take preventive measures so impending karmic results of misery won't have any effect on us. So that's just wisdom, practicality. So what are those preventive measures? My true identity is not what is on my passport. That misconception must be uprooted. You are much more than that. My true identity is that which is eternal and infinite. As Vivekananda extolled, arise, awake, sleep no more. Within each of you, there is the power to remove all wants and all miseries. Believe this, and that power will be manifested. So if we get anything from this talk, just to memorize those words of Vivekananda and remind ourselves whenever we're going through a period of darkness is very strength-giving. We must try to understand the following verses in this section logically. Once we're convinced of their logic, there will no longer be any doubt or hesitancy in our mind. And one of the surprises from coming from a Christian tradition into the Vedanta tradition is you get to question. Not only do you get to question, but you must question. You must own this tradition for yourself and be thoroughly convinced. And that comes from you. So that conviction transforms itself into your motivation in spiritual life. And this motivation also supported by aspirants who have already attained realization. And if you have ever been blessed to be in the company of a holy person, what they emanate is something not of this world. It's like a wave that goes out all around them, and everyone in their presence feels elevated. And that we have seen in our order, in our tradition. And we can see that in other traditions as well. We need to seek those holy personages. Sutra 217. Drashtri drashraya samyogo heya hetuhu. This pain is caused by the false identification of the experiencer, that's us, with the object of experience. Drashtar, seer, the eternal spectator, our true original nature, the light of awareness that is within us. It is the eternal witness of the flow of activity going all around me, while I remain uninvolved. And we can remind ourselves that during a very stress-filled day. Classic analogies of this are given to explain our human condition. The first example is that the self is pure awareness, like the sun. It sheds luminosity. And the second example we gave before, it's like the light of the projector that sheds light. And a film transforms that light into shapes and colors. In other words, this body, mind, and the world of people and objects we see all around us. The light of the projector is not involved, nor is the screen. The light of the projector may be equated with the Atman, and that of the white screen, that of Brahman. That screen that receives the images that are projected. In essence, that screen never loses its white color. But in our ignorance, we involved ourselves with the picture on the screen. So we have what is called drisha, the scene. Drisha, the scene, is what we experience with the five sense organs, the whole gamut. of life, day in and day out. We are drawn out through our senses, and thus we become involved with the outside world. We become identified with the external people and objects, such as my family, my house, my car, my country, my job, my PhD, and we're attached to them. But those realized souls who remain established in their true nature as the witness, as the eternal witness, see themselves and you as pure consciousness, Chaitanya Swarup, the light of awareness. Such illumined souls see reality covered up by diversity, but they have a penetrative insight to interact with the spirit, not with the form. A wonderful example of this, and a great holy man I once knew, Swami Sarvagatananda, disciple of Swami Akhandananda, who was a direct disciple of Ramakrishna. Swami Sarvagatananda was the former head of both the Boston and the Providence centers. He at one time explained to me, I used to go to Marshfield during the summertime, and we would spend very intimate times there with the camps, the young people's camps. And at lunch table, we would often enter into philosophical discussions. So at one time, he explained, Satchidananda should be translated as Sat, being, then Chit and Ananda as loving consciousness. A seer who has that experience sees light, and that light is loving consciousness. Now, did the Swami see that? Of course. Towards the end of his life, the Swami quietly affirmed within the hearing of a few devotees standing nearby after a Sunday service, I see behind the appearance of the forms and within all the light of loving consciousness. Imagine what it must feel like to be seen as that. That is the benefit of holy company. So we also can cultivate that habit by using our spiritual imagination, where we strive not to become emotionally involved, distracted, and unbalanced by the sense objects in the world around us. We too can learn to withdraw and shut out all our senses, remain in a meditative state, one with the divine, during periods of time, during the day. Certainly not during rush hour traffic, but there will always be times in our day where we can step back, take a breath, and pause and try to remember. Swami Shraddhananda, another wonderful holy man who was a former head of the Vedanta Society of Sacramento, an adept in the mantra practice, one time privately revealed how the experience of mantra Shakti, mantra Chaitanya, comes into one's spiritual life. He explained, I wake up with the mantra bubbling up inside of me. It brings me great joy. At another time, he said, it is also there when the mind is relaxed. It can happen suddenly. It is connected to the Ishta. It comes from the heart, the center of the universe. Now, many of those teachings are in that wonderful book, Seeing God Everywhere, where his talks have been transcribed and edited by one of our nuns, Pravrajika Vrajprana. It's a beautiful book on the mantra practice and seeing God everywhere. So such souls can come down and move in society and interact, but their interaction is not based on diversity, but based on the unity behind diversity, the reality behind the appearance. Study of this section of Patanjali's Yoga Sutras will help us to correct our attitude toward life. That's why so much attention is given to this concept in commentaries, how we get entangled in the world. And that's why Patanjali concludes this section in Sutra 224. Tasya hetur avidya, he states, the cause of this misidentification is ignorance. Why? Again and again, we get attached, mixed up, it's called samyoga, in the object of our experience. If we don't understand in the first instance that we're seeing a mirage, we'll think we're seeing water and run after that water to quench our thirst. But if we look at the mirage and take the time to reflect that this is a mirage, water appears to be there, but in reality, water is not there. So I need not run after that water because it does not even exist. So our error lies in our involvement with the chitta vritti that lies in the mind. It's all there in the mind, projected outwards. That is when our asmita, pure awareness, becomes ahamkara, ego sense. Yogis do not become involved with the chitta vritta that takes them away from yoga. So we too must repeatedly try to hold on to the Purusha. As Swami Sridharananda, a disciple of Swami Virajananda and the head of all of the centers in Australia under the Ramakrishna order, he explained, what does Purusha mean? You are in your own self, absolutely complete, absolutely complete. So I am aware I am. That is the real attitude of life. That emness of mine is the source of awareness. As soon as I think I am the experiencer, I, the seer, have associated myself with the experience, with the scene. Instead of thinking I am experiencing happiness, I say I am happy, and I have thus become identified with that vritti. So this is some yoga. When we connect ourselves with the vritti in the mind, we're not alert enough to discredit that mistake. And temporarily, we lose that awareness of our true nature. It happens again and again. It's happened for lifetimes. So what we're doing now is such a bold, bold stand to go against that wave that has taken place for lifetimes after lifetimes. We're trying to understand the subtle difference between awareness of my amness and getting involved with the chitta vritti of the mind. That involvement, samyoga, is the error. So what are the practical measures we can take in our spiritual life to drive this truth home? Let's see what Patanjali has up his sleeve. Sri Krishna reminds us of this truth in the Bhagavad Gita, the 5th chapter, verses 8 to 9. He says, the illumined soul whose heart is Brahman's heart thinks always, I am doing nothing. No matter what he sees, hears, touches, smells, eats, no matter whether he is moving, sleeping, breathing, speaking, excreting, or grasping something with his hand, or opening his eyes or closing his eyes, this he knows always. I am not seeing, I am not hearing. It is the senses that see and hear and touch the things of the senses. Swami Prabhavananda, in his Gita commentary, explains, an illumined soul knows this beyond a shadow of doubt. Outwardly, such a soul may appear no different from you or me, but inwardly his heart is united with Brahman. This union can be achieved in one of two ways. First, the Jnani has given up the sense of ego from the very beginning by asserting, not I, but Brahman. On the other hand, the Bhakta feels, I am the house and God is the indweller. I am the machine and God is the operator. Prabhupada continues, perfection in either attitude fills an aspirant with God consciousness, and the aspirant is then unable to act with any ego sense. And in fact, one can vary one's attitude throughout the day. One may feel in an impersonal mood, and take that of the Jnani, or wanting to grab on to the chosen ideal, that of the Bhakta. Prabhupada continues, with practice, we also can learn to detach from passions that arise from sensory impressions and to witness the mind objectively. To stand back as though we're in a pratyahara meditation. By following the path of jnana, we find that desires, when watched, dwindle naturally. They're embarrassed. They don't want to stand before your steady eye. And in this way, an aspirant learns how to imitate the lotus leaf by living in the water of the world while remaining unwedded and unaffected by it. The holy man who followed the path of bhakti once confided to Swami Prabhupada that he felt he was merely the instrument. With every breath, he felt the presence of his chosen ideal. It was God, the indweller, not he, who was walking and breathing. That's when one knows that the indweller is present, when one becomes fully identified in that way. The Swami reminds us we too can practice the presence of God, the indweller. When we can feel that we are the witness, we can then act so that our actions will not bind us. You know, perfection is achieved by trying to imitate perfection. So these wonderful examples that we hear, if we try to incorporate them into our life, try to imitate them, we feel elevated. Sutra 218. Prakasha kriya stiti shilam vitendriyatmakam boga pavargartam drishyam. The object of experience is composed of the three gunas, the principles of illumination, sattva, activity, rajas, and inertia, tamas. From these, the whole universe has evolved, together with the instruments of knowledge, such as the mind, senses, etc., and the objects perceived, such as the physical elements. The universe exists in order that the experiencer may experience it and thus become illuminated. So this last sentence is one of the most important of the entire Yoga Sutras. Why? In Vivekananda's Raja Yoga commentary, the Swami reminds us that we, the experiencer, have, as it were, forgotten our mighty godly nature. And he tells us a story that reveals us, our human condition. Once upon a time, the king of the gods, Indra, once became a pig, wallowing in mire. He had a she-pig and a lot of baby pigs, and was very happy. Then some gods saw his plight and came to him and told him, "You are the king of the gods. You have all the gods under your command. Why are you here?" But Indra said, "Never mind. I'm all right here. I do not care for heaven, while I have this sow and these little pigs." The poor gods were at their wits' end. After a time, they decided to slay all the pigs, one after another. So it gets a little bloody here. When all were dead, Indra began to weep and mourn. Then the gods ripped his pig body open, and he came out of it, and began to laugh when he realized what a hideous dream he had had. He, the king of the gods, to have become a pig, and to think that that pig life was the only life. Not only so, but to have wanted the whole universe to come into that pig life. Vivekananda tells us, the Purusha, when it identifies itself with nature, forgets that it is pure and infinite. The Purusha does not love. It is love itself. It does not exist. It is existence itself. The soul does not know. It is knowledge itself. It is a mistake to say the soul loves, exists, or knows. Love, existence, and knowledge are not the qualities of the Purusha, but its essence. So that is what we are. In this verse, Patanjali also deconstructs for us this drisha, what is seen, the panorama of the world. The three gunas are the three energies of the world manifest. In the gross form, we see sunlight, which is sattva guna, the volcano, rajas, granite, representative of tamas. In the subtle form, we have examples of the three manifestations of our thinking. Clarity of thinking is luminous, sattva guna is manifest. Dynamic thinking is rajaguna. Lazy thinking is tamoguna. Drisha is the matter we experience through our five organs of perception. We, as the witness, the drashta, are eternally separate from the world of matter, gross and subtle. Drashtar means who is self-realized, does not experience sense objects in the same way as an ordinary person. For example, with a crystal, if we put a red flower behind it, the crystal appears to be red because of the presence of the red behind it. But in reality, the crystal is clear. It only appears to lose its crystal clearness because of the red background behind it. However, Sri Ramakrishna described the difference between the worldly minded people and those who were spiritually minded. He said the ignorant are like people living in a house with clay walls. There is very little light inside, and they cannot see outside at all. But those who enter the world after attaining the knowledge of God are like people living in a house made of glass. For them, both inside and outside are light. They can see things outside as well as inside. And indeed, that's true. And, every time Swami Prabhupada would come to Santa Barbara, we get everything ready, but he had eyes that could see through you. He could read your mind, but he could also see the indwelling divinity within each and all. And therefore, these great holy personalities, they scold, not out of meanness, but to uproot those negative thought tendencies in the mind. So how did Sri Ramakrishna see this? When meeting a pundit, well versed in the Vedas and other scriptures, Ramakrishna said, "Yes, I can see inside him through his eyes, as one can see the objects in a room through the glass door." One need not be nervous coming in the presence of holiness, because always they see that divinity within you and try to help you. Self-realized souls never lose their poise. They don't attract any mud or clay to discolor themselves as the witness or the world they see as Maya, a dream resting on the underlying ground of pure consciousness. or in another state of consciousness as Maya Shakti, the power of Brahman. For example, an illumined soul knows, I am shining, absorbed in luminosity, the luminosity of my consciousness. Because of that borrowed light, my chitta is interpreting the chitta vritti, thought wave, the impression of the sense object I see, but I do not get bound by that experience. In other words, I remain the witness, the observer, the clear crystal. I do not experience sense objects in the same way as an ordinary person, but with pure clarity of understanding. In this connection, Swami Brahmananda once explained, whoops, he shared with Swami Prabhupada. One day, Swami Vivekananda, he and several other brother disciples were seated on the western veranda of Belar Mat. And suddenly, Swamiji said to Maharaj, Raja, don't you see Brahman everywhere? Brahman is everywhere. And Maharaj said that Swamiji's spiritual awareness was so intense that their minds were lifted up immediately and they saw Brahman everywhere. So this world can be seen as a place of enjoyment or seen from a place where one can withdraw as the witness, as the seer, after having transcended the veil of ignorance. Likewise, we can also lose ourselves in the experiences of this life, as we, as spiritual aspirants, can learn to educate ourselves through our experiences, and in the process, develop that clarity and luminosity of mind. Swami Prabhupada, in his Yoga Sutra commentary, asserted, Patanjali would agree and say to the worldly minded who become entrapped by this world of Maya, you talk so much about your pleasures, but you know nothing about pleasure. You never try to understand its nature. The universe of sense experience is a great book, and he who reads it through to the end with discrimination will know at length that there is nothing but the Atman. He goes on, no experience is vain. No page of that book is superfluous, provided that the reader learns something from it and passes on to the next. But, the Swami comments, you never learn. You never pass on. You read the same page over and over, repeating the same meaningless experience like a man who is half asleep, reading without remembering a word. So that's our human condition. There's an Indian saying, the bee came to suck the honey, but his feet got stuck in it. We can only avoid the fate of the bee if we regard our lives as a search for meaning, an exercise in discrimination between the real and the unreal. And that spirit will welcome all kinds of experience, both pleasant and painful, and it will never harm us. For the truth lies hidden everywhere, within every experience and every object of the universe. Everything that happens to us, no matter how seemingly trivial, throughout the day, offers some tiny clue which could lead us toward a wider spiritual knowledge and eventual liberation. And we've seen this. We've seen this in our lives, how people facing the most dire circumstances rise up to such spiritual heights during the Holocaust. My goodness, what giants were made. Sutra 219. Vishesha Vishesha Linga Matra Lingani Guna Parvani. The gunas pass through four states: gross, subtle, primal, and unevolved. What is this cosmos? And how does it come into being? Vedanta teaches us this cosmos is made of Prakriti, the elemental, undifferentiated stuff of mind and matter. According to Vedanta, Prakriti is the power or the effect of Brahman. Just as in the analogy there exists fire or Brahman and its power to burn, Prakriti. In this system of philosophy, Prakriti cannot exist without Brahman. Now, in the Sankhya Yoga system, and we are in the Sankhya Yoga system right now, it differs from Vedanta. Patanjali postulates that Purusha and Prakriti are two separate realities, equally real and eternal. You see, Brahman can exist without Maya, but Maya cannot exist without Brahman. But in yoga, these are two truths, two realities. However, as Swami Prabhupada pointed out in his Yoga Sutra commentary, Patanjali also believed that the individual Purusha could become entirely liberated and isolated from Prakriti, which is in fact in complete agreement with Vedanta as to the aim and goal of life. And that's why we study Yoga Sutras. Vivekananda entitles it Raja Yoga, which is, according to the Tantra system, non-dualistic. This Yoga Sutras, according to the Tantric system. We naturally now ask, what then is the course of creation? How does Prakriti evolve into the phenomena of this apparent universe? First, creation and dissolution are an endless recurring process of imbalance and equilibrium. In the state of dissolution, Prakriti returns to a seed state, the unevolved. What then is the mechanism for recreation? The three gunas, sattva, rajas, tamas, energies and qualities which comprise Prakriti and pass through a state of imbalance. When the balance is disturbed, creation takes place as the gunas enter into a vast array of combinations which comprise the physical and psychical aspects of this apparent world. So this is good to know, the difference between Sankhya Yoga and Vedanta, and also where they come together. The gross state means the physical elements we can see. The subtle state refers to the tanmatras, the subtle principles which by combining and recombining produce the physical elements. The primal state is Mahat, the great cause, the cosmic ego sense, the dawn of differentiated consciousness. From Mahat, creation is an evolution outward, from undifferentiated to differentiated consciousness, from mind into matter. So this is Vivekananda on the veranda at Bellarmont. Okay, this is our chart. From Mahat comes the buddhi, the discriminating faculty. From the buddhi comes ahamkara, the individual ego sense. From ahamkara comes the three branches of evolution. Manas, the recording faculty of the mind. The five powers of perception, sight, smell, hearing, taste, and touch. And the five organs of action, the tongue, the feet, the hands, and organs of evacuation and procreation. And the five tanmatras, the subtle inner essence of sound, feel, aspect, flavor, and odor, which combine and recombine to produce the five gross elements of earth, water, fire, air, and space. So here it's important to further explain the gunas, which provide the motive power for creation. In the physical world, sattva embodies what is pure, for example, sunlight. Rajas embodies the active principle, such as an erupting volcano. Tamas embodies solidity, such as granite. In our mental world now, sattva expresses itself as calmness and balance in our personality. Rajas as activity and passion, and tamas as inertia and stupidity. So this paradigm of the cosmos, which Vedanta accepts, puts intelligence first, out of which evolves matter. However, as Vivekananda points out, Hindu philosophy goes beyond both intelligence and matter and finds a Purusha or self, which is beyond intelligence and of which intelligence is but the borrowed light. Once Ramakrishna scolded M for showing off his scholarship with the words, "Who are you to teach others?" Ramakrishna went on to demonstrate the divine plan of this universe, seen through his eyes, the eyes of an avatar, the loftiest spiritual level of a seer known to humankind. Simply stated, yet profound, that went straight to M's heart and elevates our own sight. With his insight into seeing this world, this cosmos, as spiritually alive, he said, "You will not have to rack your brain on this matter," he said to M. "Look at the world, how it moves in an orderly way. It is God who sends the sun to shed light, the rain to give water, and the seasons to rotate. The earth produces crops which help mankind to survive. God arranged everything for us." He went on, "Look at the spiritual world. You can see temples and holy places all around the country. He created the scriptures and the holy people. These he arranged for people who want to lead a spiritual life. He thinks about everyone. We do not have to think of anything." Listening to this, M was speechless. He suddenly realized the Lord is the doer and we are his instruments.
Recording in progress.
Always. So, who wasn't here last week? Sorry. Okay. I'm sorry, who wasn't here last week? Okay, just a couple of you. Welcome. And it doesn't matter that you weren't here last week in terms of what we're doing at this point. We will be building on last week to a certain degree in that the whole theme of this chapter really is Kriya Yoga, as Brahmaprana was talking about. Today's practice is on discrimination, further discriminating and in our bodies, in our asana. So the way that I've titled this is "Some Suffering is Avoidable. Discrimination is the gateway to changing suffering into growth." So today I'm going to ask you to pick a body part. Last week we worked with the whole body as a whole. Today I'm going to ask that you pick a particular body part to work with, and I'll guide you through a short body scan so you can kind of get an idea of where you are today in your body, and to then determine a particular part, maybe a part that is uncomfortable to you today or causes you discomfort on a regular basis, like sometimes it's our knees, our hips, our neck, so forth. So as we go through the body scan, you'll kind of pick a part, and then we'll use that part to see how the movements might impact and to also see how other parts of our body impact every other part. Okay, so to try to bring this together with what Brahmaprana was talking about, this is a way of just practicing this idea of discrimination between what's real and what's not real. So this is an experience, and it's through our experiences that we learn who we are and who we're not. And we're not our experiences. We are truly what's behind the experiences, witnessing this experience. So this is just more like an experiment with ourselves using our own body. And the more that we do this, which is really what asana practice is all about, is to continue to develop our discrimination and using our body. And from that, we can take that into other parts of our life. And it's not something we have to do intentionally, although we can. It tends to just happen naturally as your discriminative factors develop, grow, and expand. We start doing that in every part of our life. Let me just make sure I've covered everything here. So not all of the poses we do will be directed towards the exact part of your body that you're working with, but because everything that we do impacts everything in our body. So it doesn't matter that it is not directly related to your choice, it still will have an impact. And that's part of what I hope that you will, make a connection to. So my intention, and I want you to make this your intention if you're willing, is just to intend to be present and notice how the poses are impacting that body part that you've chosen. So if you will now just close your eyes, we'll do just a short scan of the body. So take a nice deep full breath and let it all out and relax. Take another deep full breath in, relax your belly muscles and let your stomach expand with that inhale. And exhale out through your mouth. Sometimes letting a sigh go along with that exhale relaxes you further. And then a third nice deep inhale, relaxing the stomach and exhaling, letting it all go. Now this first part of the body scan is going to be fairly fast. So just starting with your feet, take your awareness, your consciousness up through your legs, being aware of your legs, your feet, being aware of the feeling of the chair you're sitting on, coming up into your trunk, noticing your hips, your back, all the way up to your shoulders, through your arms, down through the elbows and into the hands. Feel your hands connected to whatever body part they're touching. And just notice that feeling of connection. Feel the front of your body, front of your trunk, your heart, chest, and noticing your belly. And take your whole body from your shoulders down to your feet into your awareness. Feel the support of the chair underneath you. And then go to your neck and throat. and your head. Notice your facial features, your eyes, your cheeks, your mouth, and then your whole head, and then your whole body. The whole body, sitting in your chair. Just feel the whole body. And as you're scanning and being in your whole body right now, notice if there was any part of your body that stood out for you. Maybe it stood out for reasons you don't fully understand. Maybe it's not full pain or discomfort to a degree that you would normally pay attention to it, but something that stood out to you. And if nothing stood out to you, just pick a part. Doesn't matter what part. And if there is a place in your body that maybe isn't standing out today, but normally you're aware of, like maybe your low back, sometimes it's painful, or your neck, or any other part, bring that into your awareness. And then decide on what you want to have as your focus. What body part do you want to have as your focus? Okay. So let your mind settle in that part for just a moment. See if you can kind of imagine its shape. If it had a shape, what shape would it be? Notice its edges, how big, small. Does it have a color? Does it have a texture? Is it soft, smooth, or rough? Does it have a sound? Is there any memory associated with that part? So now just take your awareness to your whole body again. We're going to take 3 breaths the same way we did last week. So we're going to inhale to the count of 4, hold for 2, and exhale through pursed lips to the count of 8. Okay, so like you're blowing your breath out through a straw on the exhale. So let's begin. So exhale fully, and then inhale, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then breathe naturally. And just notice how you're feeling. Okay. So let's sit tall into our first posture of mountain pose. So mountain pose being the primary position is the one in which we start from with all the other poses. So we use it as a way of discriminating our posture. So it's important to know what your posture is, unconsciously and consciously. So I'm going to ask you to move to a conscious awareness of your posture. So I would like for you to sit in a way in which you feel that you are sitting up with good posture. And if you're comfortable with it, I encourage you to keep your eyes closed so that you can feel, why is this good posture to me? Why does this feel like good posture to me? What about it? Because we all have ideas. We've all been taught what good posture is. And by the way, most of them are really not accurate. Good posture really should be a sense of ease in your body. It's not necessarily what it looks like on the outside. So now that you've found your good posture, you feel the posture in your body. This is the place in which you want to start moving. So you can keep your eyes closed and begin to rotate your head and neck. Just make some slow and regular rotations of the head and neck. And I want you to feel what's there. How does that feel to you? So are there places in which you feel some pull? When you're ready, you can reverse it and go in the other direction. Notice how your shoulders are in your upper back and your chest as you do this. Can you feel the connection of the chest to the neck, shoulders to the neck? And then when you're ready, come back to your good posture. And just for a brief moment, think about that place that you've identified as your focus. Just allow yourself to be aware of it. And then we're going to take the hands up to the shoulders. Find your good posture here. And we're going to just circle the elbows. I'm feeling the movement in that shoulder joint. How much ease do you have there? Is there a symphony going on in the shoulder joints like mine? Hopping, catching, jumping, all of those things that can happen. Go the other direction. Try to feel also what other body parts are getting involved. Where else do you feel this? What else is happening besides just right here in your arms? And then come to stillness. Try to have your elbows as high as your shoulders if you can. Notice what that does. Do you also pull your muscles of your shoulders up to your ears, or do you keep them relaxed? And then take your arms out. Sorry, if you run into your neighbor, just try to not hit them too hard. And then come back. And again, just open up. Feel how that feels. Feel how that feels across your chest and across your upper back and your neck. I don't know what your body part is, but if this happens to be your body part, you're going to be noticing the effect on that. Okay, now we're going to, sorry, I know this is a little challenging with everybody here, but now we're going to go up and back to the shoulders and then back up. And notice if you straighten your elbows or do you keep them slightly bent? If you're keeping them slightly bent, can you straighten them anymore? What does that do to the rest of your body when you straighten them up? What does that do to your energy level? Can you inhale as you go up and exhale as you come down? How does that change your experience? Inhale as you go up, exhale as you go down. Try it again. Now we're going to go up and hold it. Now, as you hold it, don't stop breathing. You're only holding the posture, but notice if there's a tendency to hold your breath when you're holding your arms. Notice if your elbows are straight. Notice if your arms are in line with your ears. Are they behind the ears or in front of the ears? Now, please understand there's no right or wrong. This is simply observation. That's all. Exhale, lower your arms. Notice how it feels to let go. Can you feel the relief? Okay, so take your arms forward and up again. Now we're going to go all the way forward. Now, if you can't or don't want to try to reach the ground, reach the chair in front of you. And then inhale and come up. Inhale as you come up. Exhale as you go forward. Notice how the breath helps or assists your movement. Inhale, come up. Exhale, go forward. Inhale, come up. Exhale, go forward. Now this time we're going to inhale, go up. And as we exhale, we're only going to come halfway. Now, if you can hold it without putting your hands on something, that's fine. Or you can put your hands on the chair in front of you. Now, I don't want you to hold your breath. So keep breathing and focus on your exhale as you hold this. Notice how you're using other parts of your body to support this hold. Notice how you're using your stomach muscles, your leg muscles, your arm muscles. Now inhale, come all the way up. Exhale, lower your arms. Again, just notice the sense of that happens when we quit working, right? Okay, so let's separate the legs just a bit, and we're going to circle through the hips now. So just coming forward as you inhale and moving back as you exhale. You can, again, always feel free to close your eyes. Sometimes that deepens our experience of our own body. We're not distracted by our visual sense. And we can more subtly discriminate. Where are we feeling this? How does it feel to us? And then reverse and go in the other direction. Notice if you straighten your arms when you go back, or do you keep them bent? Again, no right or wrong. This isn't about that. It's not about judgment. This is about observation. So just staying with witnessing how you respond to what you're being asked to do. And then a couple of more circles. And make your way back. Come to mountain pose with your eyes closed and take your awareness to whatever body part that you chose. And I want you to just do a quick assessment again of the size of that part in terms of any discomfort. And you can use your imagination. Nothing comes to you. It's fine to imagine what it is like. It's not real anyway, right? It's all in our mind. Notice if there's any color, if it's changed or it's the same. Notice if there's any texture. Notice if there are any memories associated with it. And don't imagine those. Just notice if anything comes up. If it doesn't, that's fine. Don't make something come up. Okay. So now taking your hands to your knees. First of all, just give a little bit of rotation with your hands, kind of warming the knee joint. Feeling that kneecap. Does kneecap kind of move, or is it really kind of stuck? And in this position, it's not unusual for it to feel stuck. And then go in the other direction. Notice the temperature. And then we'll go right into cat-cow. So you can just still your hands. Inhale, arch your back. Feel it along your spine. And as you exhale, round your spine. And just continue with that. Inhaling, stay in your body. Let my voice kind of be background, not foreground. Your experience, your breath, your body is where you want your focus to be. You're the main event. And notice how you experience this pose. Some of us love this pose. Some of us may find that it aggravates certain areas of the back. And as you move along in your asana practice, when you discover these things in your body, maybe you don't know why something aggravates you. The practice is to get underneath it, to understand the discomfort and make adjustments. Maybe not even just in your movement, but it could be in something else. It could be in an emotional attachment that is kind of bound up in your body. Unfortunately, we can't do all of that in 30 minutes. But we can begin to notice. So now we're going to keep up with this move, but now we're going to inhale as we do the cow part of this. Take the arms up, and as you round, take your arms down. So it's a little bit more of an exaggerated move. So inhaling as you come up. And exhaling, rounding. So you may not go all the way over. You're just rounding your spine. And exaggerating the move. Inhale. Breath is primary, or at least primary over movement. Make sure that your breath is assisting you, not hindering you. If it hinders your breath, adjust your posture. Last one, exhaling. And then just coming back to mountain pose, eyes closed. Observing the effect. Taking just a brief moment to go to your spot and notice anything that might be there. And then we'll stretch our right leg out straight in front of us. Just place your hands on your thigh, one on top of the other. And we're just on your exhale. So let's inhale first. So inhale and arch. Exhale. Slide your hand down towards your ankle. Just go as far as you comfortably can. Inhale as you slide back up and arch. Exhale, go over and pull back on your foot. Stretch the back of your leg. Inhale, come back up and point your foot. Exhale, pull back on your foot and go forward. Inhale, come back up, point your foot, look up. And again. So I'm hearing some really good breathing going on. Can't imagine how happy that makes me. And then hold it over, pulling back on your foot. Breathe normally. And just allow the back of the leg to stretch. Now notice if your knee is bent, indicating that maybe the back of your leg is tight. Notice the knee, if the knee is pushing back or bent. And if it's pushing down towards the floor, is it going too far back that creates some discomfort? And see if you can just find a neutral knee where you're neither bending nor pushing on it, just neutral. And then see if you've got your neck tight, you're holding it in any way, and your shoulders. See if you can let go of those areas. Let go of as much resistance in your body as you can without crumpling down onto the floor. And then we'll inhale and come all the way back up. Keep your legs straight and circle your ankle. Make nice big circles. Now, as you're doing this, observe your posture. So even though we're working with the foot, we never lose contact with the whole body. So notice how your posture is as you're just circling your ankle, and then reverse. Okay, let's do the other side. So stay in the middle for a breath or two. And then we'll stretch the left leg out, hands to that thigh. Take an inhale, arch your back. Exhale, slide down. Inhale, come back up. Arching. Exhale, go over. Inhale, coming back. Exhale, going forward. And inhale, coming back. Exhale, going forward. Now, I haven't told you to move your foot. You may be doing that based on what you were doing on the other side, and that's great. But this time, as you go over, make sure you're pulling back on your foot. And as you're inhaling, point your foot. And then one more time, going over. Lean back. Inhale, coming up, pointing your foot. This time we'll go over and hold it. So pulling back on the foot, just closing your eyes and now observing your left leg. Notice if it's any different than your right. Notice your neck and shoulders. Keep breathing. And then inhale and come back up. And then rotate your ankle. First in one direction. Observe your posture. And then the other direction. Okay. And then coming back to mountain pose. So that is, excuse me, that is a very short part of what I really always dream of being able to do, but we just don't have that much time. So I want you to now go back to your body part. Notice how you're feeling as a whole. And then go to that place. And just notice if anything's different. And as you're observing, these are the questions, reflections. So just notice and tell yourself how your whole body is feeling after doing the asanas, the postures, versus before. And then just ask yourself if there was any change in that part. Did you notice any other part of your body that didn't come into your awareness in the first body scan that may be having an impact on the part you're focused on? Sometimes our shoulders are creating pain in the neck, or our chest muscles are creating pain in the neck. Our hips, tight hips, may be causing problems in our low back. And if you don't come up with anything, no worries, because this is actually quite an advanced practice. And then just, again, reflect on your overall posture and ask yourself, could my posture be having any impact on my discomfort or pain? And one of the ways that you can know that, or at least begin to understand that, is how you feel now, because I promise you, your posture is better now than it was before you did the postures. Just your awareness and the movements that you did, freeing up energy, is going to improve your posture. So if your pain, that part, or discomfort is better, improving your posture is part of the solution. So now just bring your hands together at your heart, bow your head, and salute the teacher within. And then offer whatever benefits you may have received to your chosen deity. And may we have faith to know the divine enriches us, invigorates us, and is present with us throughout our day. Namaste.